honest.
Oh, really? I think you probably get used to it. I remember when I first started doing sessions with Sarah. Hey, Emma. I just was so cynical about how it could possibly work remotely. Like I just didn't believe that it could possibly work remotely. And then listening to the recording as well. But the thing about it is that it actually does work because she's an amazing energy miracle worker. So now I just believe it works because I've seen it in my life. But I get the awkwardness. And for me, it wasn't so much awkwardness, it was more cynicism. I was just like, oh, I just don't believe it really work. But then a friend of mine who I do trust recommended her. And then when I started doing it, I was like, yeah, okay, it's actually really powerful. She's properly psychic. Like I've done one-on-one sessions with her where I haven't given her very much information at all about anything. And she's just known things that she could not possibly have known. Like she's, you know, a lot of people claim to be psychic, but she's like legit blow your socks off psychic. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I think I've met there's some amazing psychics out there and also some like not so amazing ones. I've had experience with not so amazing ones. So I think that's still stuck with me. And I'm like, oh, it's the psychic again. I'm not sure. But yeah, anyways.
And I think it's healthy to be a little bit cynical because, you know, people, all kinds of claims are made. But I've had really good experiences with her. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Good to see you all. It's so nice. It's like having a happy family reunion, but without all the politics. What family Christmas should be like. I'm just letting Tracy in. Okie dokie. All right. I think that we should just jump right in because I really want to make the most of the time that we've got. We've got an hour and I want to use it to its full advantage. So welcome. It's lovely to see you all and welcome to those who are listening to the replay. There's a couple of things in the WhatsApp chat that I will address first because they're for the people that couldn't be here in person today. And then we can just open it up. So I'm just finding the correct WhatsApp chat because actually this is one of the things that has come up in the WhatsApp chat, which is a question Edwina was asking around managing larger groups. So she is about to launch a program where she'll be inviting 20 women to come into the container. It's a social media program. And she's asking me about managing a WhatsApp group for that and then potentially also one-to-ones. So this group, the last group of the Bhakti Business Program that I did, I had 15 of you in it. But some of you, quite a few of you were repeats from the first round, which made my job a lot easier because I already knew you and I knew your businesses and I knew your stories. And so it wasn't like 15 whole new worlds to enter into. Now this round that I'm in, the new round that's just launched, there's 19 people. I didn't quite make it to 20. I got 19. I kept thinking there'd be one last lingering person that would come in, but they haven't. So I think it is 19. And I have to say, I'm finding that is a lot to manage. Like there's something about the difference between 15 up to 20 that is, it's a much more work for me, which is fine. I signed up for it and I'm being paid for it. So it's all good. There's certainly no complaining. I'm very happy that I got the numbers. But what I've realized is and so this is for Edwina, but for anyone else that's thinking about running a bigger group, first of all, the one-to-ones is a lot to manage. So what I might do and what I would probably recommend Edwina does. I mean, Edwina was saying that she probably isn't going to do one-to-ones for everyone, but I would offer it as an option and I do it as a VIP option. So people buy the basic program with the group sessions. And then if they want a one-to-one, they just pay for it separately and book it at the time they pay for it. And I think what that does is it means it's just less of a workload, but also then the one-to-ones come more in dribs and drabs because people will book them when they really need them rather than everyone has 2 or 3 and then they're just kind of booking them because they need to get them done kind of thing. So that would be one thing. So for Edwina, I would definitely say offer the program and then just offer the VIP upsell. Like Kajabi has a really easy way of doing that where once people have purchased, then a little box will pop up with the option of an upsell. and you can add in, do you want one-on-one time? And those of you who are doing group programs, you could definitely think about doing that. Like Nikki, that would work for you really beautifully for the voice program. Maybe even Bryony too. You could, like, if people wanted to have a one-on-one, they can just have that little pop-up come up and they can book a private session with you. Yeah, I mean, I can see that working in lots of different contexts. The other thing I would do is I won't, again, have a WhatsApp group that's got 20 people in it, because it's just too many in one group. And it's draining for the participants because they're having to scroll through so much of everyone's stuff. So I would definitely recommend, and I mentioned this to Edwina already, and Annika, this might be useful for you with teacher training as well. I would definitely recommend breaking them into pods and having smaller groups. So I reckon even 5 to 7 or 8 in a WhatsApp group is great. And then you could try to put them in groups of people that connect for a particular reason, like they live in the same area or they have the same interest, or in my program, it would be they're at the same stage of business. So I might have those who are right at the beginning in one group because they're asking really basic questions like, what's an opt-in and how do I create a website? And then I've got other people who've got businesses that have existed for a while that are turning over quite a lot of money, and they could be in another group, and then the questions are just a different level. So when you're working with bigger groups, breaking them down into subgroups is a really good idea. That's also a really good teaching technique for bigger groups in Zoom as well. So if you're running large Zoom sessions and you've got quite a few people, there's a breakout group functionality that you can use in Zoom, and you can have people go off into smaller groups, have conversations, have more intimate interactions, and then come back and report back to the whole group. So that's a useful thing to know about for those larger groups. So and of course, Edwina, if you're watching the replay and you want to chat about that more, we can completely chat about that more. But that's my thoughts about running bigger groups. The answer is yes, it's a lot of work. And I think there's clever strategies that can be used to not necessarily make it less work, but certainly to improve the experience of the participants, so it's not overwhelming for them. And then also for me or for the facilitator to compartmentalize a little bit more, which will help in the delivery, because then it's sort of like really appropriate for the level of the person. When you've got a mixed group, that's can be quite hard. So that was that question. I feel like there was something else. Oh yeah, Amanda was asking all about membership, and she is launching a membership. So she's really smart. What she's done is, yeah, Nikki's saying breakout groups work really well, and I think they're a really smart way of managing a group. And as the facilitator, you can jump between breakout groups as well. So you can just kind of dip in and dip out and check up on them. So what Amanda's done is she's your classic creative Vata person. So she's been in business for a while. She's been an online business for a while. She's a yoga teacher. She had a lot of different programs and offerings, and she had them on different platforms, mostly Thinkific, I think. And it was a little bit clunky and not very user-friendly, particularly for the consumer. So she's transitioned to Kajabi, culled everything, cleaned it all up, got much more of a clear focus in terms of her marketing, which will definitely help her in terms of her revenue. It already is. She's already doing better with sales. Now she's left with all this content that she's not using in her cleaned up trainings, and she was wondering what to do with it. And so she came up with the idea of creating a membership that has some passive evergreen content in it, and then also some live stuff in it as well. And so she's going to basically repackage content she's already got. That's what she's doing. And this is a really good lesson for all of us, because I am so sure that most of you have content already in your computers, in your phones, in your head, that could easily become paid programs and offerings if you repackaged them or thought about them in a different way. Like, for example, with Bryony, when she decided to create her course, she'd actually already written an ebook. So that content from that ebook can easily be repackaged and reformulated into content for a course. Another thing Nikki was doing, which is a great idea, is taking little excerpts from trainings and creating short and sweet little social media mini videos or like videos that you can share with a broader audience for promotion, which I think is, you know, again, really smart. So taking the content you've already got, using it in different ways, reusing it, repackaging it, bundling it together, all of these things are really smart ways to, you know, monetize stuff you've already got before you retire it or put it in the bin because you've gone down a different tack. So Amanda's done that really well. And what she's done is she has combined passive content consumption with live, which I think is really important. I do think the era of all passive content consumption is dying. I think most people want live interaction now. On Zoom, you know, not necessarily in person. I mean, people love in person too, but the component of, you know, you have to show up at 4 o'clock on Tuesday, that kind of thing, rather than just do it all in your own time, because too many people have signed up for things they haven't done. So I'm finding that live rounds of things are working really well in my business, and I'm definitely going to be doing more of that moving forward. I might give the feedback for Amanda's sales page specifically in the WhatsApp chat, because that's quite specific to her, and I don't want to take too much time for that on this call. But so she's saying, you know, there'll be pre-recorded practices as well as live stuff, and not so structured. And I love that. When I created my membership, Bhakti Club, I deliberately didn't create a structure for it. Like, if you look at, for example, Victoria Washington in the House of We, it's so structured. She's like, every month there'll be, you know, this type of we flow. On Tuesdays, we do this type of call. On, you know, every other Wednesday at 12, we always do this type of call. Like, she's got a very, very clear monthly formula, which is great. However, for me, when I thought about creating a membership that had that level of structure, it felt quite constricting. It felt like, well, what if I want to do something spontaneous? Like, what if I want to do a 3-day immersive experience and then not do anything for the rest of the month? Or drip feed something over a time that people can work on. Like, I just wanted to have the flexibility to work in different time formulas. So if you look at the sales page for Bhakti Club, you'll see that I make very few promises in terms of how much content and when it will be delivered. There's a bit of a trust piece in there that people just have to trust that I will share good stuff. And I love the freedom of that. And I was talking to Amanda about that, and I think that's probably why she's decided to not have too much structure as well. If you've got a fairly established audience, I think we have to trust that our audience will trust us, and that they're wanting to be in the space with us, and that they know that we'll deliver. And we don't have to necessarily always be as specific perhaps as we think. In fact, I often think with many sales pages, and this is good advice for everyone, there's way too much focus on the information of what you'll get versus the outcome of what it will transform in you. So if you look at the Bhakti Club sales page, it's all about community, transformation, the type of content I'll be sharing, and the feeling, energetics behind that content, rather than how often it's coming, how it's delivered. You know, you'll get X number of PDFs, you'll get X number of videos, you'll get X number of audios. In fact, I think these days people often just find that overwhelming. When they see a big list of content, they're like, oh shit, I'm going to have to make the time to watch all this. Rather than the feeling of, you'll feel calmer, you'll have better resources, you'll feel more organized, whatever it is that the outcome's going to be. So I think Amanda's really on track. I'll give some feedback in the WhatsApp group about specifically her sales page, which you can all listen to as well, because that might be helpful. And then she's asking about pricing. My whole pricing kind of focus at the moment in my business, both Bhakti Rose and Bhakti Business, because of the economic climate, is small amounts spread out over longer term. So it's not that I'm discounting, because as you guys know, I'm trying really hard to move away from the discounting model, but I am really allowing long payment plans. So for example, I'm just about to do a live round of Ayurveda Goddess, which is only going to last for 6 weeks, but I'm allowing people to pay it off over a whole year. So there's a trust component in that, which is that once the training's ended, they're still paying for it. And some people might not feel comfortable with that, but I've always done that. Even when I had yoga studios, I often had people come in and do teacher training, and they'd finish the teacher training and they still hadn't finished paying for it. And I'm personally just happy to take that risk because I feel that my students there's a relationship there which is strong enough that they wouldn't default, you know, and if they do, that's kind of their karma, and I'm willing to take that risk in order to be able to offer it to all the other people that benefit from it. So I love this model of low cost extended payment plan versus discount, because I just think it's fair for everyone. It allows people to pay a fair amount of money, but over a longer period of time, so they don't really feel it as a big investment. And the other thing I've been doing to support people with that whole recession type, you know, narrative is not charging more for the payment plan option. So whereas normally you charge a little, like 10 to 20% on top, actually what I've been doing is I've been just saying your payment plan cost is the same as if you paid in full. So people don't feel like they're being out of pocket. And there's two reasons I'm doing that now. One is I feel ethically it's really lovely, because obviously someone who's choosing a payment plan doesn't have the money to pay up front. So something doesn't feel quite right about charging extra for someone who has less money. Although, you know, with the payment plan, there is more risk that people will default and there's a little bit more admin. So I'm not saying it's completely unethical to add a little loading in there, but just for me, I feel like it's a really lovely thing to do to not do that. And two, honestly, because it's a great selling point. Like it's a really great marketing strategy. Low cost entry, extended payment plan, and you won't be out of pocket any more than anyone else. They're really great marketing tools. So I would say translating that to membership, like when I last opened the doors for Bhakti Club, it was $50 a month. Spread out over a year. So it's a $600 payment, but I'm not asking people for $600. But equally, I'm not saying, oh, it's $50 a month and you can drop out whenever you want, because then you'll have a really big, what we call in online business, churn rate, which is people coming and going. So I want commitment because I want to be able to do work that builds on itself. Like I have within the membership a strategy of what I want to do over the months, and I want people to be on that journey with me. And also it's financially relaxing for me to know that I've got that income coming in. But it's not like they have to pay up front a big lump sum. So lots of different ways of doing it, but I have chosen to not let flexibility be my big selling point, but rather to let a low price point for entry to be my selling point. There are a lot of memberships that really push the sell by saying you can leave whenever you want. But I've spoken to people who have run online memberships and struggled because people come and go so much. It's really hard to actually build a community. So I built mine around around solving that problem before it had even started. And Victoria Washington does it too. She does it in a slightly different way. So she does it where people have to sign up for a 5-month minimum. So those are all things you might want to think about, Amanda, and anyone else that's thinking of doing a membership. The other thing I'll say about memberships in general is they actually are quite hard to fill in, like generally speaking. The extended payment plan really helped a lot with the last round of Bhakti Club, and I did better with it than I thought I would. But people are a little bit hesitant to sign up for something that's a long-term commitment at the moment. So in general, I would say, I mean, I was saying in the group program yesterday, I think you probably need to have at least 1,000 people on your database before you consider a membership model. I think with less than 1,000 people, it's going to be difficult for you to get the numbers to make the content creation worth it. So I could be wrong about that. Like, that's just my hunch. It's my gut instinct. But like, certainly if you've only got 200 or 300 on your database or less, I wouldn't be thinking about membership. The only exception to that would be if you are channeling people from a paid program into a membership. So like this is a perfect example of that. Like we've gone from being in the program, and then you've segued into the membership. And I'm not even promoting this membership to the public. Like, there is no sales page for it, because it's just for people who've done the program. And there's quite a few of you that could do that. Like Bryony could do that. Annika could do a variation of that. Nikki, you could do something around that, like for people who've taken your program. And the beautiful thing about that is exactly what we're experiencing in this place, and I love it so much, is you know what they know. So I know that you've been through the program. I know that you understand all the things I want you to understand, so that we can talk about business in a way that I'm not constantly having to go back to the beginning. So for example, Nikki, if you were to do a membership for people who've done your group program, or Annika, for you, if you were to do one for people who've done teacher training, which is actually a brilliant, brilliant idea, then first of all, you've got the captive audience. They don't want to feel like at the end of the program, that's it, they've just gone off into the sunset and never to be seen again. But also you're teaching to people who have already a great foundation of knowledge, so you can go a lot deeper, and they know they're going to get value, because they're not going to be in with a bunch of people that have never done this before, and it's all back to the beginning. So that's definitely worth thinking about, and that's just a sell behind the scenes kind of thing, not a general public, like open to the public set. You know, you're not selling that to everyone. It's sort of by invitation, I guess you could say. So that's a bit on memberships. And if anyone has any more questions about that, anyone listening to the replay, of course, you can just pop it into our WhatsApp chat. So with all that said, should we just open up and see, does anyone want to share? Does anyone have any questions? Where's everyone at? Yeah, hit me up. I'm here.
Yeah, definitely have some questions, but I don't know who else does as well. So
just go for it, Nikki.
All right, cool. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry, WhatsApp. I'm like a ghost on WhatsApp. I'm not there, but I do the odd little check-in. Yeah, so launching. Yeah, I've been having kind of just dates and timings and things like that. Just with the voice, I think we spoke about that.
Yeah,
with the voice launch. So with the voice referendum, I should say. So two options, because I'm doing a launch plan. So two options. One option is just do it, just go for it. 30th of October to the 10th of December, it would be, for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And start the pre-launch like now. And yeah, so just kind of hammer into it. Or other option is do the workshop option as a pre-launch in that same time period, so that first 2 weeks of November, and have that as an early bird, and then people can sign up then, but the program doesn't start until January. So that's another option. Don't like that.
I think you'll lose momentum. I just think I don't think that's an option, because I don't think you'll get the conversions to sale. People before Christmas are very unlikely to sign up for something in the new year. They're just going to think, I'll come back to that after Christmas. So I think your two options really are now, or do the warm up after Christmas with a launch after Christmas. But doing the workshop before and then trying to carry it over into a start date after, I think, because then basically you'll be in launch and sell mode all over Christmas, and it doesn't work.
Yeah. Okay.
So are you just, were you saying that the because when you said the voice, I thought you meant voice as in your business, but were you thinking that the referendum might impact the launch? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, well, I'm just kind of sensitive to that because the referendum is on the 14th of October. That was when I was originally going to launch, which would be, well, not launch, but actually start the program. 14th, 15th of October, yeah. And I've changed it because, that's not good. Yeah.
Okay.
You want people's eyes and focus to be really onto the referendum. Yeah, and actually.
Sure. Yeah. Well. I mean, you can just delay it by a week or something like that, I think.
But then I'm launching during that period as well, aren't I? I'm kind of.
I don't think it matters that much. I mean, I think, I think it's probably more significant for you than it is for a lot of people, because you're politically active and you care a lot. And I think a lot of people won't. and don't as much as you do. And that's not to say I don't care or think it's important, because I do. But, you know, there's always different political things happening. And I very rarely plan my launches around that type of thing, unless it would be like vastly insensitive. But I don't think it's insensitive. I think it's not like it's necessarily a related topic. So I don't think it causes like conversation around the referendum isn't linked really to what you're selling. So I think it's fairly neutral.
Okay. All right, cool.
I think what I would be more interested in, and, you know, Amanda asked this too. She said, when's the perfect time to launch my membership? And my answer's always the same. And I say it to myself, the perfect time is when you have the energy and the resources to launch. Like there isn't a perfect time. I mean, Christmas is not the perfect time, I will say that. But with that accepted, and January is, unless you're doing a sort of new year type of thing, January is difficult. And even then, when I've done things that I have a new year focus, they've never been that great. I think January is hard in Australia for selling. Which shocked me when I came here from the UK, because in the UK, January is such a busy month in wellness and yoga industry. Like, try yoga, it was their busiest month of the year always, because it's after Christmas, everyone's depressed and it's still freezing cold and dark all the time. And so they just want to go out and do something, like join a gym or yoga studio or whatever. And then I got to Australia, and January was just this dead zone where nothing happened. And it took me a few years to realize, oh, okay, you've got to factor in January will always be quiet. Which now with kids is actually quite helpful. But yeah, with the exception of that, there is no perfect launch time. It's just really, have you got the capacity? And
I've got capacity for like a mini launch, like emails and just like a really simple launch. But whether I'd get, you know, whether that would get the numbers I need, you know,
yeah.
But then again, I'd be happy with a minimum of 6. You know, it's still fine to run that program with 6. It still works.
Well, why don't you do that? Why don't you do a gentle launch with the goal of 6 now? Because then you'll have your launch training wheels on, and you'll feel good at the end of the year because you did it. And I think you'll get your 6 fairly comfortably. Like you said, I don't think you'll have to do a huge bells and whistles launch for that. And then with a view to doing another bigger launch, perhaps February, March, and running it with bigger numbers.
Yeah. You know what? That could work.
Sometimes
actually.
when I feel
like, say it's only for this amount. Sorry.
Say that again.
For
sorry.
this amount of people.
Yeah, you can use that as a selling point. Yeah. And sometimes when I'm feeling a bit low in energy and I feel like, oh God, I don't really feel like I have capacity, usually what I do is I still make myself do the thing I said I was going to do, because I don't want to get into that dance in my business of like letting myself off the hook, because then I feel like I haven't got energy for anything and I don't have a business anymore. But what I'll often do is I'll scale it back and I'll say, okay, what's the simplest way I could do this? What's the lowest impact way?
Kindest way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
So
great. All right. That's really helpful, actually.
That might be that.
I feel like I can prep that now.
Yeah. And then also what happens when you do that too is somehow the intensity gets loosened, and then sometimes it's actually much easier. The whole thing goes better anyway, because you're not under so much pressure. It's just like you sort of let loosen the reins a little bit, and it all feels a lot more easeful.
Yeah, and the holding space, I know that I can only hold space for a small group of people, and I can do that. I know that with integrity.
Six,
too much
six sounds like your golden number.
Yeah. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Who's next? Emma.
Hi. So honestly, I've been in the trenches with building a sales page. And I think being a graphic designer doesn't always work in my favor. And I'm just taking way too long. And it's only my first offering. So once I've actually built it, I'll have a template. So it will be much easier going forward. And also the way I've been planning my first offering, which is a meditation mudra sacred circle, and it's going to be a live in-person, on Zoom event. I've just realized I've been making it really complicated. Like thinking I've got to go to Kajabi and do a bunch of stuff. And I've realized, yes, I do need Kajabi, but not yet, because this is, I really just need Zoom, and I just need, I can stay with MailChimp for a little bit longer. And I'm just realizing how I can sort of overcomplicate things. And so I'm just trying to come back to that simplicity. I really loved what you were just talking about. I think I really needed to hear that too. I'm at the beginning, and so I'm determined to get this sales page done in the next few days. I've accidentally deleted pages. I've just done all this really stupid stuff in the process because I haven't worked in WordPress for a little while. So it's just set me back a bit, and I will get there. I think my main question is, how I guess finishing the sales page, I wrote 7 pages of copy for the sales page, and it's just way too much text. So I've been trying to make it really pretty, and but it's just, it's a bit wafty. I need to get rid of a lot of words, I think.
Well, I mean, Leonie Dawson says you can never have too many words on a sales page. She says it can't be too long. So there's different schools of thought around that. But, we've all looked at those sales pages that just go on forever. Haven't you seen those where you're just like scrolling and scrolling and skim reading, and they're still going and they're still going. And then sometimes they even say something like, are you still with me, or are you still here? And you're still so there is something about the long form. Most sales pages are too short. However, people do skim and they do scroll. So if you are going to do a long one with lots of words, you want to do a good job with your graphics of chunking it out, and also use bolding, bullet pointing. Like it definitely can't just be like, oh my God, it's a huge, great long letter. Like people will just straight away leave.
Yep. And also, Katie, just a question, because I was going to use Kajabi to take payment for this course, but I've just decided just to keep it really simple for this go. And is there anything you can recommend to take payment for something?
When you've done it and you're you're running it, where are you going to house the actual course itself, like with all the recordings and the information and all that stuff?
Maybe I should go with Kajabi just so I can house it.
Because what's going to happen is you're going to have all these different moving parts. And this is exactly what I did. I was like, I'm not ready for Kajabi. It's too much. I don't want the expense and the work and everything. So I built all these bits in different places. And then 6 months later, just had to do it all again. Because you're going to need point of sale is one element. So you're going to have to set something up for that. You could use Stripe or you could use PayPal, but that's going to be an expense. And then you need somewhere to keep it, which you could use Thinkific or Teachable. They're the ones I usually recommend, but they're both quite clunky and they're expensive. So by the time you've put MailChimp, WordPress, or whatever your website, point of sale, and a home for the courses, you've probably spent as much as you would on Kajabi. And then you've got to get everything talking to each other. Like they click on this in the website that then takes them to this to pay, that then takes them to this to get to the course content. And there's so much margin for error for one of those links to just not connect properly. And then you've just got an admin nightmare on your hands. Whereas in Kajabi, it's all there. It's just everything's interfacing with everything. You could do a really simple way of doing it is you could do just a simple landing page for your content. And you guys have seen me do that. Like I'm doing it for this, for example. I haven't set up a whole portal for the membership. I might at some point, but for now, it's just a landing page on the website where I upload the videos. I actually really like that as a format because it's very simple and people can just find it really easily. They haven't got to log in and all that stuff. But there's no app for that. You can't upload audios or PDFs or any kind of extra material. It's just a landing page. So if you want a course, you'll need a platform for that.
No, that sounds really wise. It's funny how I just perfect. I needed to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's the most work you're ever going to do is now. Like, as you set it all up for the first time, it'll never be this much again. It's like Bryony when she built the website. Like I felt like I was on that journey with you. It was like trekking through the desert, you know, but we got there, and she'll never have to do it again. Now all she has to do is, like, you know, if she has a different offering or a variation, she can duplicate that page. And then I haven't built a website page from scratch for years now. I just duplicate one that's similar to what I'm doing, and I rejig it, and then I duplicate a checkout page and I rejig it. You never have to do this again. This is like the building the foundation of the house, so you can build the walls, and then all the stuff inside the interiors you can chop and change. But you're you know, digging a great big hole for the foundations right now, and it's really hard work. But what you don't want to do is build all the foundations and then go, shit, I've got to build a whole new set of foundations in 6 months' time.
Yeah. Yep. No, sounds good. Thank you.
No worries. Sorry, it's probably not the most.
It's okay.
It's not really what you wanted to hear, but it is what it is.
It's good. No, thank you.
Yeah. And have you got your timeline in mind? Do you know when you're going to do your first circle?
I keep moving it. I think I had it in October, mid-October, and it just felt a bit too soon. So it's going to be November, but I'm aware that it is encroaching on Christmas, so I've just got to be a little bit mindful of that.
And then when are you going to run the actual course?
Oh, I'll do the actual course probably early or mid-November.
Oh, okay, cool. So you'll do the circle before then.
Oh, sorry. I'll do the circle. Yeah, there's only just the circle for the moment. That's all.
Okay. And then the course will come later. So the circle is paid.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Sorry. For some reason I thought the circle was free.
Yes.
Awesome.
Circle. Yeah.
Great.
So, yeah. So
no, I think you can do November. You could also do October and November. You know, you could do, and then people could have the option of, if they can't do one date, then they can do the next date. Because sometimes you can lose a lot of people just because they're not around on that one specific date. So you might want to offer a couple of options.
Yeah, thank you. Yep.
All right. Thanks, Emma. Anyone else?
Are these just general questions?
Yeah, anything, whatever.
Yeah.
Anything you share or ask. I saw your message saying that you're on the launch roller coaster. One day it's a high and the next day it's a low, and always feeling like you could do more. And, you know, I think I'll just briefly say something about that. The thing about being self-employed and running your own business, no matter what level you're at, like even if you're at the very beginning or if you've got a very well-established business that makes a lot of money, there's always this feeling of I could do more. Always. Like I really still battle with it. You know, there's so many moments in my day where I do my practice or, you know, read a book or watch some TV or hang out with my kids, and just, or not always, but often have this feeling of I should be XYZ. I could be XYZ. And I think that we just get better at dealing with it. And it comes and it goes in different waves. And I think it's really, really important. And, you know, like me, Annika, you've got slightly workaholic tendencies. It's really important that we do just have some boundaries around that and just go, you know, I've done my best for now and it's not perfect and there's more I could do, but it's enough.
It becomes an obsession sometimes, like to the point where I feel like I'm going mad.
Yeah.
And it's all I think about. Sometimes I'm like, is there something wrong with me? Is this how other people think about their business? And not even my business, but other people's business too. And just like, I don't know, it's like constantly ticking. And then I hit like a breakout point, and then I just crumble for a bit. And I have 2 days where, like, every time I have a quiet moment, I just want to cry. And then I get over it. And then the cycle starts again. You know, I feel like I go through that a lot.
It's also in Ayurveda, it's very, very much the pitta personality type. So those people who are not pitta on this call or watching the replay won't relate anything like they don't really get it in the same way. But yeah, it's like regulating your pitta, regulating your fire. And for me, what works well is to compartmentalize and have quite strict times when I stop. And I'm not always good at it. Like, you know, yeah, I'm not always good at it, but I'm aware of it at least. And I know what I notice in myself, and actually Sam, my partner, always notices it too, and he always calls me out on it, is that I'll get to a point where I get quite like frazzled neurotic, like I'm just like hyper, and then I get very control-y and micromanagey, and that's they're always signs that I'm overworking.
It's so funny because my partner is the same.
I mean, you know, that's the side of us that gets shit done. Like it needs to, there needs to be a bit of that, but then it's also there's a point of like the wheels are spinning, but you're actually just. And the other sign for me that's a surefire sign that I'm just pushing myself too hard is that I start making lots and lots of small mistakes. Like this morning, because I'm pretty busy at the moment, I've got the group program running, there's a lot going on, and I'm also pushing quite hard this next 2 weeks to have 2 weeks off over the school holidays. So whenever there's a period of time coming up where I want to have time off, then there's always that, you know what it's like, the race to the finish line kind of thing. This morning, I made myself some stir-fried rice and tofu, and I poured myself a glass of orange juice. But when I went to pour the orange juice, I almost poured the orange juice onto the rice and tofu. Like I just was so focused on a million other things. I didn't do it, thank God, but I literally caught myself. And it was really nice food too. I would have been so devastated. So yeah, all of these are the signs that the pitta is out of balance. But tell me, talk to me, let me help you.
Well, I was actually just going to ask about another little mini project and how to structure it, but maybe that's what I need to talk about more. Okay. Well, the thing, just to get it out of my head right now, because I just started coming up. Well, Edwina was chatting in something with you, and she quickly brought up in mid-conversation, she was like, oh yeah, and then when we get new followers, we send them a DM, right? And then I was like, whoa, you send a DM to new followers, amazing. And I was like, why do we never do that? That's such a good idea. And in the last, like, I think it was like 24 hours, we got 20 new followers, and I don't know why. Edwina must have done something amazing, I don't know. Anyway, and in Kajabi, right, we get 15 courses, like 15 things we can create, right? Yes. And she came up with the idea, and I think it's a pretty good idea, to just create a mini course of like just a handful of classes to like sort of the vibe of Yin Yoga, like generally what the teachers are like, and just have this in it was like 4 or 5 classes
in Kajabi.
And I don't know what's too much of an offering, because like I'm thinking of like putting every single class style in, or every single teacher, so they can sort of pick a teacher first. But is that like too much? Should I only do like 3 classes, like not give them too much choice?
I think for a free offering like that, it's interesting you asked that question, because I have a free offering for Ayurveda. It's called Ayurveda Women's Wellness, and it's one of my free opt-ins. It's a mini course. And originally it was quite comprehensive. It had like 7 modules, and it was like a really good, thorough course. And a lot of people weren't doing it, and I realized it had too much in there. People were opening it and then just getting overwhelmed and leaving and not coming back. So I culled it, and I made it, I got like really made it much smaller and much more simple, and it's had a much higher engagement rate, and it started converting a lot better to sales.
Okay.
So
I've you reckon
first-hand evidence that simpler and smaller is better?
Yeah. Is it too simple to just have like an introduction, who we are, and then like 3 classes? And
no, I think that's perfect. And have the 3 classes be quite different, so that people can, if one of them's not for them, then they can choose something else.
Yeah.
Also, with the DMing new followers, you're not going to do that, are you? You're going to outsource someone to do that. You are going to outsource someone to do that. So I have someone
they call to speak to the owner. Don't you think they'll be like, wow, the owner's speaking to me? Okay.
I have someone who does that for me. Her name's Kim. She's a trade. She's trading a place in one of my programs, and I give her scripts and she uses them, but she tailors them to the person. So she looks at their profile, she makes it personalized to them. She may even have DM'd some of you because she won't know who you are, so she just does it to everybody.
Yeah, she has.
There you go. And then if it's a personal question or like something that's beyond what she can answer, she flags it. And so when I go in, all I have to do is look at the flagged messages. I don't have to look at everything else.
Oh, you can actually flag messages
in Instagram, yeah.
Like literally. Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So
and notice too, I'm not paying her because I don't have a budget really for that, but I'm paying her with a trade. So it works for her, but it also works for me because I get the job done without being out of pocket. So you could put a post up on your social media saying, I'm looking for someone who wants to trade a place in, you know, whatever, teacher training or credit for classes or a membership for some admin help. Yeah.
And that's the admin help, social media.
That's the admin help. And there could be other jobs too.
Yeah. I got heaps. Heaps.
There you go. Right. Yeah. One thing I'm doing at the moment in my business that's really helping me a lot is I'm setting up quite a few SOPs, standard operating procedures. So just like written formulas for the way things are done, which might seem pointless if you've only got a really small team. Like it's basically me, Edwina, and Tabinda. It's not like I've got like heaps of people, but it just means things don't get forgotten. Or if you're tired or you're busy, you can even look at the SOP yourself and then remember all the stages of something that needs to be done. Like, for example, creating a sales page. You know, there's always going to be, you need a checkout page, you need to set up the payments, you need to set up the email alerts when people buy so that you get an email telling you that someone's purchased, which is nice to receive. And, you know, there's just like a few things that you always have to do. So having an SOP, a standard operating procedure, it's just a fancy way of saying a list of chores that have to be repeated. It means you don't have to take up brain space every time by remembering to do it.
Yeah, we just started like a Google doc which hyperlinks to other Google Docs and Loom videos. And I started that inspired by like Tabinda as well.
Yes.
She loves Loom videos. So
Great, good. And Tabinda's really good at that type of stuff. So you can get her in on the whole kind of SOP creation. Just reassure her that it doesn't mean you're trying to replace her. You know what I mean? Like, can you create the training manual for someone to do your job? It doesn't mean I'm going to actually get someone else to do your job. I just want it to be codified.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You know, I've said this to you so many times before, but I'm just going to keep saying it to you. Your role is to delegate. It's to have ideas and then figure out in your business at your, not for everybody here, but for you and for people with businesses at the size that yours is. It's not that you have an idea and then you do it yourself. You have an idea and you figure out who can do this for me.
That's what I mentioned in the WhatsApp group as well about how I'm working I'm on a Zoom call. How I started working with but I started working with two other ladies to create that yoga festival, right? And it's the first time that I've never worked like in that dynamic before where it's like three bosses. I was like, this is freaking weird. Like, so I definitely need to learn how to delegate. Anyways.
And then the trouble with three bosses too is that everyone's got different ideas. It can be really hard to move forward. It's really slow. The one great thing about working on your own is you get to just have the ideas and then do them without having to consult with anyone.
It's so fast. It's like 3 days faster. But this is a skill I guess we all need to learn too, right? Is to collaborate. Can't do everything on our own. Thank you.
All right, lovely. Thank you. Tracy, Bryony?
I'd like to ask something, Katie. Just in regards to, and hello everybody, nice to see you. Just in regards to how you prepare for like an hour or 45-minute session with a group of people, how much do you plan?
Yeah, good question. So I would say in the beginning, I mean, not now because I've been doing it for so long, but when I first started, I planned a lot. Like I wanted to be really clear. And it's not necessarily like you want to allow enough space for things to sort of organically go off in their own direction, but you also want to make sure that you get the content that you want to share covered. So it's always a bit of a like balancing of those two things. So what I would do is I'd have a rough timeline, like sort of like 10-minute chunks of what you want to cover in each of those chunks, and then I'd allow time at the end for Q&A. And if you go off a little bit on a tangent, you can always roll something over into the next session if you need to, but at least then you know where you're at, you know, in terms of sort of tracking to make sure you're not getting really distracted or spending way too long on one point. The other thing, one thing that's worth noticing, and some of you will know this already about yourselves because you've been teaching for a while, but I think this is useful for everyone. Most of us will have a tendency either in the direction of, especially if you're feeling a little bit nervous or a little bit stressed, we'll either be way slower than we planned. It's usually the CAFAs. Or we'll go race through it and we'll be really fast. And it's like, oh my God, it's only been 15 minutes and I've said everything I had to say. So it's worth identifying what your tendency is. Mine, obviously, when I first started teaching was the rushing.
Yeah, I ran out of time. I'm sorry, I covered everything probably in the first 20 minutes and I thought, oh shit, we're on here for, thankfully it was just 45 minutes and I asked for an hour. So yeah.
So then it's always a case of another thing I would do in your teaching plan is have some things in there that are optional depending on if you have time, and try to have them be interactive. So it might be that you ask a question and then you go around the whole group and each person answers that. And then from that, there'll be little springboards that you can then jump in. Because when you do the interactive stuff, that's when you'll have the opportunity to give more examples and tell more stories, and you know, but it can be quite hard. I mean, you see it in the groups I run all the time. It usually only happens that once 2 or 3 people have started speaking, everyone jumps in and has things. It's the first couple that are hard. And then you can always just put people on the spot. I mean, they're in a paid program. You can just, you know, look at the list and call out a name and ask that person.
Yeah, it's just there's a group of 3 and I suppose they're all quite timid, and there was just no back and forth. And I thought, oh, how much do I need to prepare?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Okay,
so
that's
definitely, if it's only 3 and they're quite timid, you definitely want to get them talking, even if it's a little bit awkward. Just get them talking and they'll overcome the awkwardness. It'll get less awkward, and be really reassuring and really light-hearted in the way that you respond, you know. And I think particularly for you, I think one of the biggest barriers for what you're doing specifically is going to be getting them to be honest. Because they'll be feeling like they have to be sort of like, oh God, is my boss going to watch this? Or, you know, if I tell the truth about, you know, I came into work hungover, or, you know, I had a customer that I couldn't stand, or whatever it might be, that they can't, because they've got to be professional. They'll get into trouble. So it might
be in the treatment room. 2 of them were together in a treatment room Zooming me. So I thought that's just an immediate barrier, because they're not separate and they're together and they're at work.
Yeah, so it's hard. They're barriers. They're very real, and you've got to find ways to sort of work around them and get them in their comfort zone. And you know, sometimes that can be by you telling a story that gives permission for them to then share in a way that they might not have. Like, you know, it literally could be something as simple as you saying, when I first started, I often felt very nervous. And then they're like, oh yeah, we feel really nervous too, but they probably wouldn't have just straight away gone, we feel nervous.
Yeah, for sure. So share some vulnerability with them to allow them.
And don't be afraid to ask them direct questions. And
I will. They work together, so it's fine.
And just like be robust around the awkwardness, because there will be a few awkward moments, and it's okay. You just sit through it.
Okay, thank you.
But the short answer is I do plan, definitely, because you want to make sure you're getting through the content you want to get through.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, love. Tracy, did you want to ask anything or share anything?
I was actually been thinking what you talked about earlier today was to create, I think I'm trying to look at creating something big, and the last couple of days I've been thinking about just create a smaller course, for some people to sign up, 5 weeks with a bit of yoga classes and some, nutrition. I think I'm trying to create this big course, and I think maybe if I just get some momentum and just do some smaller things. Just what you talked about earlier on the call resonated with my thoughts were.
Similar to what Emma was saying, of like just doing a gathering or a couple of gatherings, and then you're starting to build the momentum, build the audience, and then you can springboard off that. But I agree, it's it's like so many things in life. It's often the thought of doing it is so much worse than the actual doing it. The thought of folding the massive pile of laundry is so much more draining than actually just getting the big pile of laundry and beginning to fold it. And it works like that with so many things, and in our businesses it's the same. We just have these sort of even with launching, and launching is work, like I'm not going to pretend it's not, but usually what happens is once you start, the momentum just takes care of itself, because when you're in it, you just have to keep going. Once you've set a date and you've put it out there and it's on sale and one person signed up, I always feel happy when I get my first person signing up, because I feel like, okay, I'm doing this now. Like even if it's just the one, I'm doing it. So then it's like the momentum just sort of takes care of itself, but it's that initial pushing yourself forth, and it's so easy not to, and it's so easy to defer and delay and think of a million reasons why now's not the time. And and sometimes it's genuine and we really do need to just rest and pause, but more often than not we just need to start. And I do notice it's really a lot of people, when they're more at the beginning stage of business, will go from sort of zero to like an idea that's really ambitious, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I just think of it like your training wheels. It's just get started, and then make a few mistakes, have a few smaller groups, but just as you do that, you're building and you're learning and you're growing.
And the other thing that I'm started to do is attend things where I'll find my people.
That's a great idea.
As a participant.
That's a great idea. And also getting into Facebook groups where the people are hanging out that you provide the services that they need. That's we were talking about Sarah at the very beginning of this call, Sarah McGann, my friend who's an energy healer. She gets so many of her clients by being in Facebook groups of sort of spiritual entrepreneurs and different spiritual Facebook groups, where she then provides solutions for the things that people need help with. That's a great one. Like for you, it would be like, get into some Facebook groups of people who are struggling with gut health problems. They're your people. They're right there, captive audience. Beautiful. I love it. All right, good. Well, we are moving into the last quarter of this year, like that's happening, and I do think it's really easy to sort of just, especially because once December starts, it's sort of a downhill slide to Christmas. It's really easy to just write the rest of the year off and just kind of go, okay, we're just, sliding on out of this year, and then things start up again next year. But I do think there's every potential that something you can finish strong, is what I'm trying to say. You can do, like, if there's something that's been on your list for a long time that you've been wanting to do, whether it's a small launch or a reaching out to someone or something that is going to create momentum in your business, I definitely think there's time between now and the end of the year. But now is the time, because if you leave it too much longer, then we do get too close to that slide, that descent into December, January. So it's a good opportunity now to really put those dates and that structure and that form in place, to then kind of see that momentum happen before it all gets end of the year-ish and a bit too late for much to happen. All right, well, let's just keep connecting in the WhatsApp group. I love hearing from you. I love hearing about how it's all going, and always happy to answer questions and be in that space. So let's all stay in touch. I set the dates for the next 2 sessions as well, the next 2 gatherings. So they're in the WhatsApp group, and I'll pop them on the membership page as well, just as a reminder. So they're in there for you too. Thanks, ladies. Have a beautiful evening. Take care.